Okay, buckle up, because today's deep dive is going to feel kind of ripped from the headlines, even though it all went down before the '08 crash.
Yeah, we're talking about a time when, well, let's just say confidence was in high supply on Wall Street.
We got excerpts from Christine Richards' Confidence Game, a real page-turner about this hedge fund guy, Bill Ackman, and his battle with MBIA, this giant in the bond insurance world.
And it all starts in the early 2000s, right after the dot-com bubble burst. Wall Street's still partying like it's 1999.
Champagne for everyone, right? Except this Ackman guy wasn't popping bottles. He's kind of like the guy at the party who's pointing out all the cracks in the ceiling.
Right, and here's the thing about Ackman. He wasn't just some random dude with a Bloomberg terminal. This guy had serious street cred.
Harvard, real estate, already running a successful hedge fund.
Exactly, but here's what made him different. Ackman was, well, he was obsessed with research, like really obsessed.
And this is where the story gets juicy, right?
Absolutely. See, Ackman wasn't just crunching numbers. He was trying to get inside the heads of these Wall Street bigwigs. He knew that markets, for all their fancy algorithms and whatnot, are still driven by human beings.
So emotions, biases, all that good stuff.
Exactly. And that brings us to MBIA, the undisputed king of bond insurance. Now, bond insurance, it's basically like the financial world's security blanket.
You lend money to, let's say, a company, and you're a little worried they might not pay you back. Bond insurance steps in and says, don't sweat it, we got you covered.
And MBIA, they were the gold standard. They had this perfect zero-loss record, never failed to cover a payment.
Sounds almost too good to be true, right?
Well, that's because it kind of was. See, MBIA's whole business model was built on this image of, absolute invincibility. If people started to doubt them, even a little, the whole thing could unravel.
So they had to keep up appearances no matter what.
Exactly. It was like they were picking up dimes in front of a steamroller. Sure, they might get away with it for a while, but
Eventually that steamroller is going to catch up to you.
Exactly. And Ackman, he saw that steamroller coming a mile away. One of the first things he noticed was this deal MBIA made involving, get this, a sewage plant in Omaha, Nebraska.
Sewage plants, huh? Sounds glamorous.
Not exactly Wall Street high finance, right? But this wasn't just any sewage plant. It was, well, experimental. And the way the deal was structured, it seemed like MBIA was almost guaranteeing a bailout if things went south.
Okay, so maybe not a smoking gun, but definitely a little whiff of something funky.
And here's the thing. That Omaha deal, it wasn't just some isolated incident. It was a symptom of a much bigger problem. MBIA's insane leverage. They were insuring billions upon billions of dollars of debt.
With what, like a couple of nickels and a rubber band?
Pretty much. Their actual cash reserves were tiny compared to the risks they were taking.
Like building a skyscraper on a foundation of toothpicks.
Exactly. And Ackman, being Ackman, he couldn't just let this slide. He went straight to MBIA, laid out his concerns, and you know what happened.
Let me guess. They rolled out the red carpet and said, tell us more.
Not quite. They basically tried to shut him down. Richard's book actually quotes MBIA CEO Jay Brown as saying to Ackman, "No one has ever gone to my regulators without my permission."
Now that's a big fat red flag if I've ever heard one.
Right. It was like they were more worried about silencing Ackman than actually addressing his concerns.
And this is where it gets even more interesting, because MBIA's reaction, it wasn't just about one company trying to protect its image. It exposed a much bigger problem on Wall Street, this culture of, well, you know what they say, don't confuse me with the facts.
Yeah.
It's like everyone had already decided that MBIA could walk on water.
Exactly. Yeah. Questioning their AAA rating, it was practically sacrilege.
Like, how dare you, sir? MBIA is a pillar of financial stability.
I know, right? But Ackman, to his credit, he didn't back down.
Oh, no. This is where his stubborn streak really shines through.
He's publishing reports, giving interviews, basically shouting from the rooftops that the emperor has no clothes.
And how's Wall Street reacting to this?
Pretty much how you'd expect. They're calling him crazy, saying he's trying to manipulate the market, the usual.
It's funny how quickly genius turns into crazy when you start questioning the status quo.
Tell me about it. And Richard doesn't sugarcoat it either. She talks about the toll this fight took on Ackman, the sleepless nights, the strain on his family.
I mean, can you imagine going up against the entire financial system, basically being called a heretic for pointing out the obvious?
It would have been so easy for him to just give up, but he didn't. And that's what makes this whole story so fascinating. He truly believed he was onto something huge.
So what was that something? What was he so worried about?
2 words: subprime mortgages.
Ah, yes. The ticking time bomb at the heart of the financial system.
Exactly. And Ackman, he saw it coming. He knew that millions of Americans were being sold mortgages they couldn't afford, and he knew it was only a matter of time before everything blew up.
But here's the thing I don't get. How was MBIA, the company that was supposed to be too safe to fail, involved in this whole subprime mess?
That's where those infamous CDOs come in, collateralized debt obligations. Basically just a fancy name for bundles of mortgages all diced up and repackaged as low-risk investments.
They weren't really low risk, were they?
Not even close. They were stuffed full of subprime loans, ticking time bombs waiting to explode. And guess who was insuring a lot of these CDOs, making them seem safe for investors?
MBIA.
No way.
They were up to their eyeballs in this stuff. So you've got this perfect storm brewing. A housing bubble, a financial system built on trust in a company that's essentially leveraged to the hilt, and this one guy, Bill Ackman, sounding the alarm.
And nobody's listening.
Well, until it all comes crashing down, that is.
Exactly. And when that crash came, let me tell you, it was not pretty.
Richard's book does not hold back on the drama. I mean, she's got helicopters full of toxic assets, banks on the brink of collapse. It's like something out of a movie.
It really highlights how interconnected everything had become. Remember those super senior ratings we talked about? The ones that were supposed to be even safer than AAA?
The gold-plated, platinum-wrapped, guaranteed by God ratings.
Those ones. Yeah. Turns out they weren't so super after all. When the music stopped, everyone realized they were holding onto a pile of worthless paper.
It's like the whole system was built on a house of cards. And Ackman was the only one who brought a fan.
And let's not forget, those CDOs, the ones MBIA had insured, they were packed with subprime mortgages. As those mortgages started failing...
Boom, there goes the neighborhood.
Right, and MBIA, despite all their promises, they couldn't cover those losses.
It's actually kind of heartbreaking when you think about it.
Yeah.
Richard does a great job in the book of, reminding us that this wasn't just some abstract financial crisis.
Oh, absolutely. This wasn't just about numbers on a balance sheet. Real people lost their homes, their savings, their livelihoods.
Exactly. And in the middle of all this, you've got Ackman, the guy who saw it coming, tried to warn everybody, and got last out of the room for it.
Talk about a thankless job, right? Seriously. But see, that's what I find so fascinating about this whole story. Ackman, he wasn't some, infallible oracle or anything. He made his share of mistakes.
Sure, but he was willing to stand up for what he believed in, even when it meant going against the grain, risking his reputation, everything.
And that's a powerful lesson, right? To trust your gut, do your own research, don't just blindly follow the crowd.
Especially when everyone's telling you to just relax, everything's fine.
Because sometimes the experts don't have all the answers. Or worse, they're incentivized to keep you in the dark.
Exactly. It's like that old saying, if it sounds too good to be true.
It probably is. And that, my friends, is the real confidence game. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.